What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Cannonballs podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Dane Cannon. Co-hosting with me today is
your boy, Jake Mother Effin' Bulls on the mic. 1, 2.
And guys, we got a great episode for you today. We are going to be continuing our series where we basically break down, records and basically how they performed to where we expected the team to perform division by division. We've already done the North and we've done the East. Today we are going to be doing the AFC and NFC South. So we're going to have, some sloppy teams in there, especially on the NFC side and on the AFC side. But we're going to break them down. Unfortunately, today I do not have my journal with me, which is basically where I wrote down every record prediction when Jake and I did our before the season predictions and all that stuff. So I will probably just announce on the next episode that comes out after this when we do the West, basically what I predicted and where the teams came out. But guys, if you aren't already, go ahead, give us a like, comment, subscribe, follow us on our Instagram at Cannonballs with a Z_podcast. Jake, do you have anything to add before we get going?
No, these divisions were so fun last year. They had the best team out of this division, out of all four of these teams, or all 8 of these teams, was the Jags. They became little playoff darlings last year. But other than that, it was a lot of mediocre play. But before we get into the divisions, big news in the NFL. Some big contracts just happened. This is Monday, March 6th, 2023. And big quarterback signings. Derek Carr was the first one. He signed a 4-year contract, $150 million to the New Orleans Saints. And he's guaranteed $60 million of it and $10 million of it in the third season. So, good for Derek Carr. I kind of want to get your opinion on it. Do you like the signing?
I do, actually. The Saints were kind of in a tough predicament at the quarterback position, and I think that Derek Carr, I would say he's above average. I wouldn't say he's elite. I would say he's a good player. He's a good quarterback. He can make some big-time throws. He's been in the league a while now. He's a veteran. He can read the defenses. I'm sure that he'll learn the offense pretty quickly. So I think that, it's a good signing, and I would say that he's a lot better than Jameis Winston or Andy Dalton or any of those quarterbacks. So I definitely think it's an upgrade. They have good offensive pieces. The defense is solid. So, I think this is a good signing. I'm happy for the Saints, and I'm happy for Derek Carr.
Yeah, I also like this the signing. Derek Carr, like you said, he's not in the NFL. I wouldn't consider him a top 10 quarterback, but he's middle of the pack. He's kind of like I think he's a Jimmy Garoppolo kind of type player. Can win you some games. Probably can help turn your franchise around. I think the Saints have been kind of searching for their identity ever since Drew Brees left. And I agree with you. He's an upgrade compared to Jameis, definite upgrade compared to Andy Dalton. And just looking at it on the surface, I think the Saints right now are the team to beat so far in that division. But I like it. Nothing crazy contract numbers. And I think $70 million is, I think all this guaranteed money is kind of like the direction where these contracts are going ever since, Deshaun Watson got all of his guarantees. Yeah. Obviously, the players want their money guaranteed. Anything could happen. So I think that's definitely the way these players want to go. But, a good sign for the Saints. And the second signing of the day, Geno Smith, the comeback player of the year, signed a 3-year, $105 million deal. And there's he gets, in the first year, he gets $52 million of it. So he definitely capitalized on that, awesome season he had last year. And he was probably smart. His agent probably was smart too, and said, maybe it could be a one-hit wonder. We don't know. And he said, give me half of it the first year. So that was a very smart
Up front,
move.
baby. Give it to me up
Yeah.
front.
Yeah, very smart of him. And honestly, I think they have like an option or something like where they can get rid of like if he is like they'll be out 52 for the first year, but I think they can can terminate his contract or whatever, something in the or maybe that was Derek Carr. But,
They have an out after a little bit or something like that.
yeah, so just in case, it was a one-hit wonder, but good for Geno, man. Even though he's a Seattle Seahawk, his story is pretty awesome. If you don't like, good stories, you're weird, and you should like this one. It's not heartwarming, but it's just a feel-good story, I guess. And
Yeah.
I like it for the Seahawks. I don't think they were going to get Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they were going to get Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think it was probably the best thing for that team. Besides, there's talks of the Seahawks, moving up to get one of these young quarterbacks. So, I like it for, Geno Smith, if they are going to do that, to, kind of mentor the young rookies. But I don't know but I like it. He did his thing last year. So what do you think of it?
I like it for Geno. And I think that, with the Seahawks, they're going to have some stability. He knows the system. He's been there a little bit. He knows what they're going to be running. I think he had his best season that I've seen personally last year. So if he can continue it, I think the Seahawks are going to be fine. I'm not necessarily confident that he's going to repeat what he did this last year, but, he still has some offensive pieces. He's got a great running back room. He's got an okay defense. They balled out for some of the season, then they kind of took a step back during the second half of the season. If they can be consistent, then I think that they'll be pretty set. So I like it. I hate to be like the bearer of bad news. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl with him. They could be competitive, but they're going to need a lot from the other positions to kind of elevate this team to a playoff push or to a Super Bowl run. So,
yeah, I think he's the perfect quarterback for to keep them consistent.
Yeah.
Maybe win a playoff game here, take him to the playoffs, or at least be on the verge of the playoffs until they can get their guy. So I think that's why it makes so much sense for the Seahawks to kind of move up in this year's draft. But we'll get into that when we start talking about the draft. But other than that, folks, those are the big signings. A couple releasings, but who cares about those? Well, I just care about the signings, really. AFC South.
Do you want to do AFC or NFC South first?
I think we've been starting with the AFC. I think we've been starting with the AFC.
I don't remember. We only record once a week, and my mind has gone to shit because of this last week that I had. But yeah, all right, screw it. Let's go to the AFC South. Like we've been doing, we've kind of been starting from the bottom to the top. So how about this? I'll start off with the AFC, and then you can start off with the NFC, and then we'll start from the bottom. So the Texans going 3-13-1. Unfortunately, like I already mentioned, I don't have the journal like Jake does. I don't have my journal to say exactly what I put them at record-wise. But, during the preseason, before the season started, I think I had them around 1 or 2 wins. So I think they exceeded it barely from what I recall. But they're right around that range. We thought that they were going to be bottom of the pack. They were. And there just wasn't enough talent on this roster. They just didn't have the pieces to make anything happen. I liked Lovie Smith. I thought that he kind of got screwed out of a head coaching position. He just didn't have any talent. So I do like the fact that they got, was it Frank Reich in there? Not Frank Reich, DeMeco Ryan.
DeMeco Ryan,
yeah. I like DeMeco Ryan, so we'll see. They just need talent on the team. Overall, I'd probably give their season a D minus. I don't want to necessarily give them an F because they were able to play spoiler to a couple teams. And, they fought hard. Like, they weren't necessarily getting blown out of these games. They were still competitive, even though their record didn't show, like, any wins. But, yeah, this just wasn't a good season. It wasn't a good team. For the pieces that they had talent-wise, they made some games interesting. So, I'm not going to give them an F, but really low, D minus.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely. I'm pretty certain we had them winning 2, maybe 3 games. So, like you said, kind of exceeded expectations. At the beginning of the season, they were a very scrappy team. I was kind of shocked. I think their first 4 or 5 games, they were in close battles. They almost played upset in a couple of them, or they did. I think their record was 3-1 and
No.
Throw 3-13-1. 3-13-1.
3-13-1. Yeah, I thought you were saying they started off 3-1. I was like, hell no, they didn't.
No, they started 0-1-2. So they didn't get their first win until week 5 against the Jags. But like you said, this team was just very lacking in talent. They really couldn't do much on offense. I feel bad for Davis Mills because I personally didn't think he was that terrible at a quarter from what I saw. I think he just lacked weapons. I think if you put I still think if you put him on a team with some weapons, I think he can do some damage. But that's over. So I think the best thing out of the season was they found their running back and Dameon Pierce. And then some of the young defensive players kind of stepped up and showed that they can build off of them. And, they brought in a defensive coordinator for a reason. So I like that. But like you said, I don't want to get a complete failure, even though it was an ugly season for them. But, it's a rebuilding season. And they had early draft picks last year, and they have early draft picks this year. So they're definitely in rebuild mode. I think, and I'm counting the signing of D'Amico Ryans in this. I think he's going to change the culture a little bit there. So, I'm going to give it a D- as well. D-.
All righty. So Jake and I both having the Houston Texans at 3-13-1 with a D- on the season. All right, let's move on to the Colts. This was the biggest surprise for us because I know that preseason wise, Jake and I, we actually had them winning the division. We were high on them. We thought, they're going to build off of this offensive line. Jonathan Taylor, Matt Ryan comes in. We thought that he would be more competent than Carson Wentz. Didn't happen that way. I think we had them. Winning 11 games, 10 or 11 games.
I think it was 10. I think we had them going 10-7.
Okay, so yeah, they were off by 6. So unfortunately, because this team isn't that bad roster wise, they have talent, they have pieces there. It just fell apart, and Matt Ryan just couldn't do it. The offensive line, I don't know what happened to the offensive line. They were one of the best units, and it just completely went to shit. It was atrocious. Yeah. Matt Ryan was constantly under pressure. Matt Ryan couldn't get the ball out quick enough. He couldn't put enough spin on the ball, get enough juice on it. It did not work. And because the defense was out there so much, they got gassed. Then teams started scoring because they were constantly out there. They were tired. So honestly, I will give this team an F. I think that the Indianapolis Colts season comes down to an F because of where we expected them to be and then where they ended up at the end. So unfortunately, Indianapolis, you get an F from me.
Yeah, there's only going to be a couple teams that I do this to, but the Colts are getting an F-. There's probably 3 or 4 teams that I'm going to give an F- to, and the Colts are one of them. I thought they were going to be a playoff team. I thought they were going to, battle the Titans for the division crown. That definitely didn't happen. They just looked pitiful. This is one of the worst teams to watch all freaking year. Besides the Denver Broncos, and spoiler alert, that's going to be my other one of my other F minuses. The Colts were just absolutely like atrocious. It was atrocious to watch. Like, it was just mind numbing. Like, I could not bring myself to watch an entire Colts game. Every Colts game that you watched, it was just a shit show. And, you know, Jonathan Taylor didn't show up. Michael Pittman didn't show up. Matt Ryan definitely didn't show up. And the entire offensive line didn't show up. And, you know, the defense, it showed up here and there, but still, I think it was kind of a letdown this year as well. Coaching, obviously, their coach got fired. Jeff Saturday came in. Did they decide who their new head coach is?
I think they did. I just can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. Honestly,
I don't know. It was just it was a bad season, man. Nothing went right for this team. Lucky for them, they have a high draft pick. So, you know, I really look for I said it last year. I think they needed to stop. You know, they went from Phillip Rivers to Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. They were just recycling garbage. No offense. I can't think of a nicer expression, but you know they're going to go into
Rivers in there.
Yeah,
he took him to the playoffs. Why is he in there?
Because it's Phillip Rivers.
He went to the playoffs,
garbage, but he was. I'm not saying he had a bad year. I'm saying he was on the last leg of his career. Not gonna. He only played there for a year. That. Yeah, I'm not saying he had a bad year. I'm just saying they haven't established their quarterback in the last 4 years because
so it's
just
like
been
a carousel. I see what you're saying.
That's what I mean. Like
the quarterback carousel.
Yeah, don't get all freaking butthurt because I'm talking about Phillip Rivers.
Well, there is bias there, but it's also hard to like think that I don't put him in the same conversation because you have a 4-win team and then like a 6-win team with Carson Wentz, and he went 10 or 11 wins and takes them to the playoffs. I think that's a little bit drastic difference.
He definitely had a better season, but I mean, how long did he last there? A year. So that's what I meant. Like they're just taking all these kind of has been or on the last leg of their career quarterbacks, and it just didn't work out. Besides, you know, the 1 year Phillip Rivers took them to the playoffs. So I think they're gonna definitely get someone that they like in the draft. If they don't, they're stupid. But yeah, F- for me.
All righty. Brutal start to the grading for the AFC South. All right. Tennessee Titans. I think we had them coming second in the division, if I remember correctly. And I think we had them around 9 wins, if I'm not mistaken. So they performed a little bit subpar to where we expected them at the beginning of the season. And, you know, they looked good at the beginning. And then they had injury after injury, and then it just went to shit.
Yeah.
And they went on a losing streak. Quarterback position became kind of a letdown. I know that, you know, they were dealing with injuries to Tannehill as well, but this defense got gashed. This offense was literally one-dimensional. It was all running attack. Treylon Burks couldn't stay healthy. You know, they don't have A.J. Brown anymore, so it was literally a one-trick pony. Yeah. It was a one-trick pony, and this offense became abysmal. They just couldn't score, and the defense was gashed with injuries, so they couldn't stop anyone. The defense was still good, though. Like, it's crazy. Like, they got gashed, but they still put up a fight. Like, they would give up a big play, but then they would come back with, like, a good sack or good interception. Like, they made plays, but they still gave up a decent amount of points. So it's a weird predicament. But because of how they finished the season, I know that injuries played a factor, but you can't be so one-dimensional. So I'm going to give them a C-, honestly. I think that it could have been better, obviously. If you're gonna like completely tarnish them, Jake, take into consideration
C-. I'm not gonna completely tarnish them, but a C-. Dude, this was the number 1 seed last year.
Yes,
or
but you
2 years ago.
But without AJ Brown.
Okay, yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
you can't grade them. You can't grade how they performed in the season based off of a move that they made during the preseason. You have to grade the team that you're given.
That's part of the year. That's part of the year, baby. AJ Brown got traded in 2022.
But we're not grading the front office. We're grading
I'm
the
grading
players
the
in the
entire
team.
year. Entire year.
So ladies and gentlemen, Jake and I have two different grading scales, obviously, as you can tell, because we debate on this quite frequently on like what we're grading on. So I'm not grading on the fact that AJ Brown was traded. I think it's a dumb decision, but I'm grading the players that were on the team and how they performed during the season. So because they didn't have the pieces that they did have, I am going to give them a C-. That's almost a D. I mean, a D is terrible. A C- isn't good. They still had 7 wins. They looked good in the beginning of the season. Defense was pretty decent. It's just you're one-dimensional, and you can't win games that way. So I'm not saying it's a failure, but it wasn't good. So C-.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking into account everything, like, what they did, what they lost. I mean, how they play, how they played in playoffs. I'm taking everything into account, and it just was not a great year for the Titans. I mean, you go from being the number 1 seed in the AFC, and then you do lose AJ Brown, and we all knew it was going to be a different offense, and it showed. And because of that, they are not getting a good grade for the season. They didn't have a good season. They didn't make playoffs. And again, like you said, injuries, you have to account for that. But, sorry, teams get injured. Like, I'm not going to give your team a better grade because you got injured. Like, teams get injured. It sucks. Like, it's a part of football. It's a part of sports. It fucking happens. Like, sorry, like, you just got to account for it. Like, so, I mean, I'm not going to scorch these fools, but I mean, I'm going to give them a D. Like, I don't think anything higher than a D is, deserving for the Titans. I don't think, Ryan Tannehill had a great year. They definitely didn't establish, his replacement if they are going to replace him. They didn't establish a number 1 wide receiver. I think there's talks about Derrick Henry getting traded. So
they're shopping him around, which, okay, really quick before you continue on, I kind of like it actually. Here's why, because then teams aren't going to be preparing strictly for the run, because when you have Derrick Henry back there, you know that they're going to give it to him. He is getting up there in age. You can get a 1st-round draft pick, I'm sure, from him. Mm-hmm. So, get younger, maybe mix it up a little bit, maybe throw off teams for what you're going to run offensively. So I'm not opposed to it, but he is a pivotal running back. Like, you need him to a certain extent. So it could go either way. It could be a bad decision. It could be a good decision.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if the Titans get rid of Derrick Henry, they have nothing. And
they're
they
rebuilding at that point. Yeah. They'll be near the bottom of the league with the Houston Texans.
Yeah, if they get rid of Derrick Henry, they've decided that they're in rebuild mode. And I think, like, the one positive of the season was, I think, just showing Mike Vrabel is a great coach. I think he still had, the players fighting, even though they were just, on their 2nd and 3rd string quarterbacks. No wide receivers were really showing up. So, I mean, it sucks, but, I got to give the season a D because it just wasn't that great. But yeah, D.
All right,
you
guys.
Gave him a C-.
C-. So not much higher. All right, guys, let's move on to the last team of the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who Jake and I both had near the bottom. I think we gave them around 5 wins is what we predicted. 5 or 6 wins.
Wait. Real quick. Oh, okay, you continue.
So they definitely exceeded expectations. They have a culture now, Doug Peterson is a hell of a coach. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's turned this team around in 1 year. They had back-to-back years of the very first pick in the NFL draft, 2 years running. This team's young. I still disagree with how they use their money on players and the pieces that they have, but they made them work. So I just think that's, you got to give credit where credit's due. And I think a lot of that's Doug Peterson. Trevor Lawrence looked light years better. The defense looked solid. The offense got going. Travis Etienne definitely makes a difference. Zay Jones looked good. I mean, tight end. What tight end name? What's the
Evan
tight end?
Ingram.
Evan Ingram. Thank you. Best year of his career. He was washed, and then he comes to Jacksonville and looks really freaking good. And, they're getting Calvin Ridley also, who had to take a year off because of gambling. So this offense is high-powered, and I'm kind of excited. So if I'm going to give them a grade on the season because of where I had them being second to last in the division, only winning 4 or 5 games, maybe 6. I can't remember exactly. They win a playoff game against my team of all teams, and they were down 27-0. That was an excellent comeback by them. Great coaching. So honestly, I'm giving this season an A- for them.
I am right there with you. Yeah, I mean, this team made me eat my words, just like the Titans. They made me eat my words. I still have to eat a pocket chip because of that, but stay tuned for that. I will do it. Just give me some time. Don't worry. But the Jags, man, they did a lot this year. They established their defense. They have a solid defense. I mean, half their first round picks have been defensive players. Christian Kirk, we all head scratched when he signed, but they actually got a pretty decent wide receiver for, it's still a lot of money, but a lot less money than, the Deebo Samuels and the DK Metcalfs of the world. So that was good for them. And they also traded for Calvin Ridley mid-season, which is huge. If Calvin Ridley can be anything what he was, I mean, he took a year off, and it wasn't for injury. So I'm sure he's been training. I'm sure he's hungry. And
got a lot to prove.
Yeah, got a lot to prove. And Evan Ingram did have a great year this year. Definite a breakout year. Definitely what everyone thought he would be coming out of college. But it just goes to show right time, right place. Sometimes he just needs to be the right place, right click, whatever. And then Trevor Lawrence, man, last year we're just throwing out the window because Urban Meyer, but there's a couple games this year that I was kind of worried. I was like, oh man, is Trevor Lawrence not going to be what we thought he is? But then he definitely picked it up, man. Like he definitely showed why he was a number 1 overall pick. And I think he's just going to build off of it, man. Like 2 years in a row with Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning coach. They're going to go out, get more weapons. So that's going to be awesome for him. And then Travis Etienne, man, I didn't think he could. I mean, I think he was injured maybe 1 game, maybe 2. But
it wasn't much, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't think he could stay healthy as a smaller stature running back, but dude, he's a beast. And I like where this team is going. I think, I mean, looking at the rest of the division, I think it's their division for the next couple of years. Yeah, I mean, I mean, we just talked about the Titans. They look like they could be in rebuild mode. The Texans definitely in rebuild mode. The Colts, their quarterback. I mean, there's so many question marks about the Colts, so I'm not even going to talk about the Colts. But yeah, I definitely think the Jags could be, division winners for a while. So yeah, I'm giving it an A.
A solid A.
Yeah, I'm giving it a solid A.
I think this is like one of the first times you've given a higher grade than me.
Yeah, I liked what they did. And first year you win a play like that, so when we graded the Detroit Lions, like I would have given them a higher grade if they would have made a playoffs, and then I would have given them a higher grade if they won a playoff game. They did exactly what I wanted the Lions to do, and they came in, they won a really good playoff game. Granted, it was against the Chargers. And also,
choke artists.
Yeah, and honestly, I think they had a chance of beating the Chiefs. They were playing them hard. I mean, they only lost by 7 points. So, Yeah, I like the season. It was by no means, a failure of a season. It was a great season, I think, for the Jags. Jags fans, ownership, players, it was just great all around. So solid A.
There you go. All right, guys, let's move things on over to the National Football League. So, Jake, I'll let you take the reins with these. I think this was the closest division by far. Three of the four teams had the exact same record. One of the teams only had one more win than the other three. So, Jake, let's start off with the bottom team of the division, the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, so, at the beginning of the season, I was really impressed with the Falcons. They upset a couple teams, aka the 49ers. And Marcus Mariota was playing pretty good at the beginning of the year. He wasn't turning over the ball. They really established that run game with Cordell. And then, I think the defense was playing pretty good, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
They were playing pretty good.
Defense was playing a lot better than they're used to.
Yeah. And then,
in the beginning of the season.
Yeah. And then Cordell Patterson got hurt. And it kind of just shifted. They put in Tyler Algier. I mean, even though he did solid, playing for Cordell and the other running backs that are there, they did solid stuff there. But they were in a lot of close games, and I don't know. I think it was just, and then Marcus Mariota's play just kind of plummeted. He got benched, and then I think the last 4 games, Desmond Ridder came in. So, we knew it kind of would happen eventually, Marcus Mariota getting benched. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't – they were fighting for a playoff spot. I mean, they won – how many games did they win last year? 3 or 4 games? You'd have to check that.
I think they won – I want to say they won 6 last year. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, let me know. But they won 7 games. They were in close games all around. I think a lot of their games were within one score.
They went 7-10 last year as well.
Okay, so 7-10. They went back-to-back 7-10 seasons, and well, I guess they got to play with what's his name, Drake London a little bit. They got to, he got to prove a little bit.
You just got to get the ball to Kyle Pitts, though. I still don't know what they are doing with that. What is it? Is it scheme? How do you not give the best rookie tight end the ball? I know he wasn't a rookie last year,
dude.
Rookie the year, was he? No, rookie 2 years ago. But still, it's give him the fucking ball,
dude. Thank you for bringing that up because I completely forgot about Kyle Pitts. Yeah, man. What the hell is the point of having this beast of a tight end if you're not going to use it?
Especially since you took him top 10 pick in the NFL.
Honestly, for that alone, I'm dropping their score. For that alone. Because that's pathetic, dude.
I'm sorry, Atlanta fans.
Yeah, I get that your team wants to establish a run. I like it. Run defense or have a good rushing attack and play good defense. But come on, dude. You got to just throw a couple up to Kyle Pitts. Let him establish something. So for that, I'm giving this season a D+.
Dude, that's exactly what I gave them. I wrote it down on my phone beforehand.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah.
I
don't know if you guys can see that.
Nice. So yeah, D+ just because it wasn't they were fighting for a playoff spot until the very end, pretty much. Like Dane said, they were tied with 2 other teams and 1 game behind. So it's kind of hard to, say they had a great season because it was a whole weird. It was just weird for that entire division. But I'm kind of interested to see what a whole year with Desmond Ridder is going to be like. But yeah, D+.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the D+. They were right around the ballpark of where we had them, record wise.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why it's so low for me and why maybe some of the teams that have the same exact record are a little bit higher is simply just because of the fact that you had hope. You had this like irk to win games and you just couldn't pull through. It was just disappointing. D+ for disappointing. They gave games away, they kept games close, but then they just shit the bed and they lose. And it was just mistake after mistake. Big time games, you lose to the Chargers. Obviously, you got to drop because you lost to one of the worst teams in the NFL. So I'm surprised Jake didn't say anything right there.
I picked them to beat the Chargers that week too, but they freaking sucked.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but this team could have had a really good record. A lot of their losses were within like 5 points. I mean, just real quick. I mean, their first loss, 27-26. Second loss to the Rams, 31-27. But their wins were also close too. I'm just going to go through all of them real quick. Sorry, Dane.
Do it.
Against Seattle, win 27-23. Against Cleveland, win 23-20. Against Tampa Bay, a loss 21-15. Against 49ers, fuck you, 28-14. They won. Good for them. So their biggest loss was probably against Cincinnati, 35-17. Expected, Cincinnati elite. Carolina, win 37-34 overtime. Los Angeles, lost 2017. Carolina, lost 25-15. Chicago, win 27-24. Washington, 19-13, loss. Pittsburgh, loss 19-16. New Orleans, 21-18, loss. Baltimore, loss 17-9. Arizona, win 2019. Tampa Bay, 30-17, win. Detroit, win 27-23. New York, lost 24-16. And Jacksonville, win 28. Oh, sorry, that's the preseason. My fault. But all those games were except for like 2 or 3, were within 5 points.
Yeah.
So they had I almost want to give them a better record than that or score than that. Just for
after
being
hearing
close
how
in a lot of
close
games.
every single game was, I might bump them up to a C.
Yeah, a C-, just because I'm down to do that because I forget how scrappy this team. I remember talking about the Texans.
It's because we have the recency bias of how bad they look near the end.
Yeah. I mean, we forget they beat the 49ers and they beat some good teams, man, or they were in it with some good teams. So I might give them a C- just for how close they are. Usually, like you look at teams that kind of go from worst to first, and you look at their year before, and you look how close each game was, and you see if they're getting blown out or if they're only losing by 3 or 4 points. So I'm not saying the Falcons are going to take a next step, but you never know. They could surprise us next year. So C-.
Yeah, I'm going to move them up to an actual C. I would move them down to a C-, but after hearing that their point differential is not bad. It was better than the Vikings, who had a 13-win season. That's crazy to hear. So I think that they're just a couple pieces and maybe coaching away from being a good team. I think that if Desmond Ridder ends up being a decent quarterback, the offense could be solved. But schematically speaking, because of the whole Kyle Pitts situation, you have good weapons. Kyle Pitts and Drake London on the same team, that's a good combination for receivers. Because, I mean, you have the fastest tight end, basically, because he's basically a receiver who can make elite catches out there, and you just don't give him the ball enough. Tyler Algier, he stepped up as a good running back, and he was a rookie, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at a C. There's a lot left to be desired from this team, though. I think that's why I'm a little bit low, or why I was lower is because, what's up?
So continue. Sorry.
I was just going to say there's a lot left. There's a lot of meat left on the bone with this team. Like, there's things that you want them to do because they show potential, and then they just let you down, which is why I'm low on this team. What were you going to say?
So they have the number 8 overall pick. You think they get another weapon?
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be a receiver, though. I
What do you
think,
think? Running back?
dude,
Bijan?
if they, because imagine this, like Bijan Robinson and Cordero Patterson. Well, actually, Cordero would probably. Is he staying? Is he under contract? Do you know?
I think he signed to 3 years, so I think he's still there. But,
I don't think they would go
Tyler
running
Algiers,
back.
yeah, dude, I'm thinking wide receiver, dude. Because I mean,
Think so?
last year, my personal opinion, I liked Desmond Ridder out of all those rookie quarterbacks. I don't know what it was, but just watching that kid play in college, I thought for me, I thought he had the most potential. So if he can take a step up, I mean, again, he only played 4 games, so it's going to be kind of hard to take a huge leap from that. But if he can do whatever he did in college and, kind of help this team around and they get him some weapons, man, because they had a good run game last year. I think we forget about how good their run game was.
Yeah,
I think they had
kind of
one of the top 10 rushing offenses.
That's why I don't think that they would go running back with Bijan. Plus, that's really early to take. I honestly think Bijan's a generational talent. I think, okay, maybe not generational, but he is basically the second Saquon. I think he is that good. Because like Saquon's college tape was elite. Penn State, elite college tape. Bijan Robinson, elite college tape. I think he is one of the best running backs I've seen in a long time. Other than Saquon, I think they're the 2 best running backs I've seen in the last decade. Unfortunately, I didn't watch college that much when Derrick Henry was there at Alabama, so I'm sure he would have been involved. But he's like another Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson, when he came out, he was elite. And I think that's what Bijan's going to be. So maybe I think that they might go defense, maybe an edge rusher, maybe defensive line, possibly a corner. There's some corner, and I think running back, corner, and edge are the 3 strongest positions in this year's draft. I think their wide receivers are pretty weak, to be honest. I mean, no wide receiver ran under a 4.3 this year. A 4.3 is still very, very fast, but nothing in the 4.2s. I just wasn't impressed with this year's wide receivers as much as I have been in years past. But either way, they could be a couple pieces away. I think that, I don't know.
I think
we'll see when we get into draft talk.
I think they are a couple pieces away. I think if Desmond Ridder can play decent, I think they can. I mean, this division is so weak right now. I think they can definitely go worst to first. But enough talking about the Falcons. Let's move on to our 3rd place team. We're going to talk about the Saints. Man, what
another
a weird.
7-10.
Again. Yeah, another 7-10 team. This was a weird season for all of these teams, but I think it was especially weird for the Saints. I think that was Dennis Allen. This was his first year, right?
Yeah.
Or second? First?
I think it's his first.
Yeah, so unfortunately for the Saints, well, I guess fortunately now, but during this season, they really didn't establish their starter, Jameis Winston. He got hurt, then Andy Dalton, and then Jameis was healthy, but they didn't start him. They still have the Taysom Hill thing. Alvin Kamara definitely had a off year. I think he went like 5, 6, 7 games without scoring a touchdown. So definitely an off year.
Hasn't played for it feels like 4 freaking years.
Yeah, Michael Thomas. If you guys remember, 20,000 years ago, he was the offensive player of the year. But he is long removed from that. Unfortunately, he just can't seem to stay on the field. But what's
Chris
the wide
Olave.
receiver? Yes, Chris Olave. This is the one
beast.
Yeah, this is the best thing about the Saints season. But again, they were fighting for a playoff spot late into the year, just because how close the division was. The defense at times showed up, at times they did not. They just it was a weird season, but I guess I'm gonna count the Derek Carr signing as their season. I guess I really can't, but I'm going to. F you guys. So I think they're established, who they want out as a quarterback, so that's good. But I mean, as far as the actual football play, I think I'm going to give it a C minus as well. I mean, they had the same record as the Falcons. They probably did as much as the Falcons. I don't think they did worse than the Falcons season, personally. It was just, mediocre. So, C, though, I don't know. That might be a little too high. I've been rough on these teams. Damn, do I do D+? Let me look at their schedule. I got to look at their schedule, guys. Because
now it's going to come down to, even though these teams had the same records, it's going to come down to how bad they lost or how great they won.
Yeah.
So we could go off of point differential, because I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I don't remember if they were in a lot of these games, because I didn't pay attention particularly a lot to the Saints or this division as a whole, because it's such a weak division as of right now. So I was mostly focusing on the Chargers and other teams.
All right. So do you want me to just go through all their games?
Yeah.
All right. So week 1 was a win, 27-26 against the Falcons. Week 2, a loss, 20-10 to the Bucks. Week 3, Carolina lost, 22-14. Week 4, Minnesota lost, 28-25. Seattle win, 39-32. Cincinnati lost, 30-26. Arizona lost, 42-34. Wow, that's a high-scoring game.
That was where Andy Dalton threw, I think, 3 interceptions on 3 pass attempts. That was on Thursday
night. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a good game. Week 8, Las Vegas win 24-0. See, their defense showed up then. Week 9, Baltimore lost 27-13. Week 10, Pittsburgh lost 2010. Week 11, win against the Rams 27-20. Week 12, lost San Francisco 13-0. They got shut out. Week 13, loss Tampa Bay 17-16. Week 15, win 21-18. Week 16, win 17-10. Week 17, win 20-10 against the Eagles. And sorry, the first one was the Browns, and then the one after was the Falcons. And then week 18, loss to Carolina 10-7. Yeah. I'm gonna go C minus. I really can't go higher than that for them, and I really don't want to go lower either. I think it was mediocre.
It's very similar to the Falcons. I mean, there were a lot of close games as well, but I do think that they had a wider margin when it came to point differential. I think it was a little bit larger for negative point differentials. So just because of that reason alone, I think I'm going to give them a C minus as well instead of a C. And I think that they had, I don't know, man. It's tough. They had a decently hard strength of schedule. There's a lot to incorporate here. And, it's a first-time head coach. So actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it at a C. I'm going to be just the same as the Falcons, because with a first-time head coach, you lose Drew Brees, a Hall of Fame quarterback, and then you move to Jameis Winston, who gets injured. You have to go to your third string, your second string, Andy Dalton. And, they had injuries too. I'm going to leave them at a C. Just like the Falcons, they left a lot to be desired. They were so bipolar in a way that some games they looked great, other games they just didn't show up. And I know that that's kind of how sports are with certain teams. And unfortunately, that was the New Orleans Saints this year. So I'm going to leave them at a C.
Nice. All right. Third place, we got the Panthers. And
second place.
Sorry, thank you. Second place, we have the Panthers. And at the beginning of the season, they were started with Baker Mayfield. And I said, I did a bold take, and I said, I think this team could be a dark horse playoff team with Baker Mayfield. Boy, was I wrong. But they were a dark horse playoff team. They almost got into playoffs. And, they were one game away, and they actually played really good at the end of the season, unlike
they did.
The rest of these teams. I think the Panthers had a better end of the season than the other 3 teams in this division.
You know what's crazy?
Yes.
Sorry, I just want to jump in really quick. The craziest thing is that it felt like it felt like, I'm not saying it's the reason they did better, but it felt like as soon as they traded Christian McCaffrey, this running attack exploded. I have no idea why. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was weird. You know, they had 8,000 different quarterbacks. I mean, they went from Baker Mayfield to TJ Walker
Darnold.
to Sam Darnold to who's the other boy? Sam Howell. Is that his name?
No, Sam Howell's a rookie who's on the Commanders.
Don't they have a rookie quarterback?
Is it like Dennis Allen or some shit? I don't know. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. So it was a weird carousel at in Carolina. I think they're gonna look to the draft to get someone. But once again, kind of a disappointing year for DJ Moore. He had like 2 good games. I don't know what the hell you do with that guy. He has such talent, but he just doesn't. Maybe it's the offense. Again, maybe he needs to find a new change of scenery. Yeah.
Could be scheme.
So, but like you said, the run game kind of showed up. The defense played great at times.
J.C. Horn is a stud. I love J.C. Horn.
J.C. Horn, Brian Burns. You know, they established that they have some good players on defense. But I mean, were in some pretty close battles this year as well. Do you want me to go through their games?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Browns lost 26-24. Giants lost 19-16. Saints win 22-14. Cardinals lost 26-16. 49ers lost 37-15. Christian McCaffrey gets traded. Rams lost 24-10. Buccaneers win 21-3. That was a pretty good win for them at the time. Falcons lost 37-34. Bengals lost 42-21. All right, they got spanked right there. Falcons win 25-15. Ravens lost 13-3. Broncos win 23-10. Seahawks win 30-24. Steelers lost 24-16. Lions win 37-23. Destroyed the Lions' hopes for playoffs. Buccaneers lost 30-24. Saints win 10-7. So,
it was an up and down season for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, they had a really good end of the season. They were playing for almost nothing. Like their chances of getting they still had a good. Let me say that they had a shot to get in the playoffs, but I don't think anybody was picking them. I was rooting for them. I think, if I remember correctly. I think I'm gonna give them a C minus. I'm just gonna give all these teams a C minus, besides the Bucks probably. Maybe not a C minus. I think I might give them a D plus, just because they really didn't establish a quarterback like at all. It was just a carousel. But then again, so was the freaking Saints. So was the Falcons, sort of. I'm just gonna go C minus, honestly. I think they had a okay year at the end, and they had a decent defense, and they played some teams hard. I'm gonna give it a C minus.
All right. Just the same. They're all 7-10, and they're all 7-10 for different reasons. I'm gonna give this team a C. You know, I'm just sticking with it. I feel like it would be unfair to grade this division, who all ended up with the same record, differently. I know that the outcome of the record happened in different ways, but you know, I think it's very fascinating the fact that this running attack just exploded. I think that was one of the strengths of this offense, is they got the running game going. The defense, like you already mentioned, was, you know, superb in some games. They came to play, they balled out. And then other games, they just didn't show up. I think that they had the widest point differential margin in comparison to the other teams in the division. Like there were some games where they got smacked, but then there were also games that they smacked other teams. So it's very interesting. I'm just going to give them a solid C. I wasn't very high on this team coming into the year. I think I had them winning like 5-6 games. I can't remember. So they did a little bit better. So yeah, I'm going to give them a C.
All right. And now for the first place Bucks. Man. And I gave the rest of these teams a C minus, but I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna give the Bucks a lower grade.
Yep.
I think
I'm right there with you.
I think all the other teams played above their expectations, while the Bucks played far, far below their expectations. Let's just start off with the obvious. Tom Brady, his last year in the NFL, as of now, had a bad year. He did not look good.
Not at all.
He was missing his receivers all around. This offense looked god awful at times. Like, it was just dink and dunk to Leonard.
They couldn't score over 20 points to save their lives.
Yeah. The run game didn't look great at all. I mean, Leonard Fournette, I was talking about those releases. Leonard Fournette got cut. I don't know if he gets – I know someone will resign him, but he's not getting a big contract. I don't think he's worth it. Mike Evans definitely had an off year. I think he had one game with multiple touchdowns. I think he had like 6 touchdowns in the year. It was not – or no, I think it was something less than that. It was not a great year for Mike Evans. Chris Godwin had a decent year, coming off the injury, so I think that was a positive for this team. They never really established a number one tight end for them. The defense hurt all around, injuries all around on the offensive line. Yeah, it was just but they still made it to playoffs. But with that said, it was not a great year for the Bucks, and with that, I'm giving it a D minus. And now I think this team is kind of going to go into
a rebuild.
Somewhat of a rebuild. I mean, they still have those defensive players. I think they're still going to have a pretty good defense. I mean, they were like a top 15 ranked defense. So I think they'll be fine on the defensive side. It's just so many question marks on the offensive side of the ball, especially with Brady leaving. Are they going to sign Jimmy Garoppolo, or are they going to give the reins to Kyle Trask, I think his name is. Mm-hmm. And then the run game. I want to go back to the run game. It didn't look great. Usually that's like kind of this team's, bread and butter. Leonard Fournette looks slow. He looks slower than Ezekiel Elliott. What's his name behind him? Rashard White. He looked okay. Yeah, Rashad White. He looked okay at times. So yeah, it just wasn't a great year for the Bucks, even though they made the playoffs and won the division. I'm still giving it a D minus. No,
yeah,
D plus. I'm gonna give it a D plus. D minus.
Well, that's what I did as well. I did a D plus as well, and I think the main reason is because of how high we were on this team, like during the preseason, like before the season started. We both had them winning the division, which they did. But it was the way that we expected them to win the division. We expected them to be a playoff contender, possibly make a deep push, possibly go back to the Super Bowl, because with Tom Brady, anything's possible. But like you already mentioned, the GOAT just did not look very goaty. He looked more just like he didn't want to be there. And a lot of that could have been outside influence. I don't know how much of, his personal life played a factor into his play. I'm sure it had something to do with it because he had a lot of stuff going on. But, the offensive line decimated, defense had injuries. Bruce Arian wasn't there anymore. First-time head coach. What's his name, Todd Bowles?
Yes.
Head coach. And, they fired their offensive coordinator because obviously, like you already mentioned, a lot of it was dink and dunk. And it was possible, or it's possible that the reason it was so dink and dunk is because of how demolished this offensive line was. So, you know what? Now that I'm talking about it, the way that I've been grading prior to this, I got to be a little bit more lenient with that based off of my grading scale. So I'm not going to go D plus. I'm going to go C minus, barely above what Jake has, but a little bit above and still lower than the rest of the teams in the division because, we had hopes and aspirations that this team could possibly go back to the NFC Championship game. I mean, I think Jake and I had once discussed that because of the talent that they had, and it just did not happen. So, because of that, C minus, just a possible rebuild now. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this team was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were multiple playoff win team. I just think they just had a bad year. Injuries, Brady not playing like Brady. And it sucks, I don't know. I mean, hopefully he stays retired, honestly. I hate when players retire, blah, blah, blah. But it's just a bummer that, he didn't go out on top.
Yeah.
I think last year he should have retired last year. He, even though he lost in the playoffs, it was a great game. He threw for 300 something yards, almost won, almost beat the Rams. So it's just a bummer, but you know what? What can you do now? And that is the end of the AFC South, folks. I hope you like our gradings. I'm sorry if you think I'm tough on these teams. I expect, good things from these teams. And when they don't perform, I'm sorry. I guess to take shit on you. On your team. But, it's fun giving these grades. It's kind of like looking back in the past. But yeah, you got anything else to say, Dane?
Nope, not really. I definitely enjoy these episodes, this series that we've been doing where we kind of grade based off of what we expected of these teams and how they performed. 2022 was a fun season, a lot more to talk about with the AFC and NFC West next week, which is both of our divisions. So it'll be a lot more entertaining, I believe, especially more than this division or these divisions.
Yes.
Other than that, I don't have too much else to say. Guys, thank you for tuning in and listening to the Cannonballs podcast. Like I already mentioned earlier, like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram. Jake's been putting out reels again, so we do have more content on there. So make sure you go ahead and follow because Jake puts a lot of work into that, and so I appreciate you, Jake. You have anything to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, follow us on Instagram at Cannonballs with a Z _podcast. Like you said, reels. We're doing more stuff. I'm going to eat the pocket chip eventually. I'm sticking to my word. It's just give me some time. I will do it. It sucks. So with that being said, thank you for listening. And as always, peace.